Hello everyone and welcome to NERDGOBLIN Art. I'm Lula. Right then, I have a 3D print printed here at Goblin Plaza, and it has some humour about it, of course. There we go, I'm too old for this. Beep. And I'm going to be painting it so that it appears to be an actual statue. So to do that, I'm going to use Warplock bronze base, and these are the Citadel paints. They are acrylic based, and this is going to be the very first layer. Although I have, once this was printed, we used our resin printer. Once it was printed and we put it through the cleaning process and into the UV light machine and all that stuff, it was sprayed. It was sprayed with some grey paint. I'm not going to be using this stuff again though, because I don't like it. But there we go. Now, trust the process. I know it looks awful. It looks awful at this point, but honestly, it's going to be absolutely awesome. I promise. And this is going to get a coating all over, including the base. But don't worry, I'm not going to force you to watch me painting it all over. And we will. I have got you sped up a little bit, and also we'll do some clever editing as much as possible. So what is this anyway? In case you don't know, this is a bust of Captain Jean-Luc Picard from the Starship Enterprise. Yes. I grew up being force-fed sci-fi stuff from an older brother. My brother is 3 years older than me, and I was kind of brought up on it in the sense that I had to watch it because we didn't have multiple TVs back in the day. But I actually ended up absolutely loving it. And in particular, The Next Generation is my Star Trek. It is my favourite of all the series that they've, come up with. Although I do love like Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Not a big fan of the is it Discovery? I'm not a fan of it. Just yeah. But I did love Picard as well. I really enjoyed that. As loads of issues, I guess, but I'm not going to be going into that. But I do love The Next Generation. I have a massive love for the original, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. But the movies, I absolutely adore those. I did watch the original series, but it was more, I thoroughly enjoyed Generations more. So when I heard of this collaboration, which is being hosted by the wonderful Nikki Kirk at Arrtx Creations, I knew this is what I wanted to be doing. And it's been ready for ages. The actual print has been ready for some time now. But the way my brain works, I have to do things in order. So this has had its first coat. I'm not going to be giving it a second one. And this is what I'm going to use for a dry brush. And I'm not going to be too shy about it. The brush is an artist's opus, and this is a fabulous brush. Check that out. These are perfect for dry brushing, but if you don't happen to have these kinds of brushes, you just need a brush that is nice and got a firmness to it and doesn't hold on to too much water. You don't want to make your brush super damp. These brush sets come with a small sponge which you can dampen and gives you a little bit more control. And I also use the tile, as you can see, and I'll brush off some onto there and onto my cloth and onto my hand as well. It just gives me a good idea of how much how much I have on the brush. It's just a feel and a way. And dry brushing is exactly what it says on the tin. And it's a case of not having a huge amount of paint at a time on your brush, and basically dancing your brush over the model of whatever it is you are painting. So I did debate. I did debate for a little while over how I was going to be painting this model. I considered for a while painting him as life, you know, with the skin tone, the red jumper with the black and all that. I did consider doing all of that. But then I thought, no, I want it to actually look like a statue. So started looking up stuff on, you know, other things that I could do. So these combinations are what worked for me. And it is actually a very relaxing and enjoyable process. Well, I always find painting relaxing and enjoyable. But this is not too complicated. And I'm aware that to somebody who doesn't paint, that could you know, raise a little bit of a giggle or an eyebrow. But honestly, you know, you take your time and it is completely doable by somebody that's you know, more of a novice. And especially as this model is a lot larger than things like the Warhammer 40k models, which we're often painting, and anything of the smaller things. So this one is a little bit more forgiving. And because you're not putting detail, you know, you're not painting into the face, and you can see part of that, you can see the majority of the face, to be fair. But because it is an actual being actually painted as a statue, you don't have to worry about those things. You just have to be more aware of your dry brushing and knowing when to stop, when less is more, and such as that. So I love this print. When I saw this print as an option, it was just perfect, because I will often use the meme of Jean-Luc, you know, putting his hand, you know, his face to his face to his hand, like, oh, for goodness sake, type thing. I love using those that image as a GIF quite often, you know, whether it's on social media or in Messenger and stuff like that. So I had to do this one. I'm really enjoying this, actually, and you can see the words coming up a bit more here as well. And I'm concentrating on getting this lighter tone onto the edging. And of course, you're making sure that you are letting it dry between coats. And for me, that can be a little bit, because I don't like wasting. I really don't. So yeah, I'm doing a second coat just to get the depth in there. And these paints, just like any acrylic, if you're using acrylics for painting on canvases or if you're painting on models, they always dry darker than they first initially appear. So it's always worth stopping, letting it dry, sitting back and having another look at your model by sitting back and just making sure. And then you can make the decision whether you need another coat or whether you need to take it back a little bit, perhaps. So yeah, it's a really nice technique, so to speak, is the dry brushing, and just doing a little bit of homework, checking out other channels perhaps as well, that can give you great tips and recipe ideas. When I say recipe, I mean, the colours you need to start with and come towards. And that's what's great about the Citadel range, is they have so many options for you. And they're not massively expensive either, which is also great. So I'm doing like I know this part is sped up, but it's basically bringing that lighter colour across the detail and making sure it looks like it's kind of popping out of there a little bit, which obviously it is, but we want it to look as if it's an actual statue that's maybe been sitting around for a time. It may have been handled in certain ways. So, there's more highlights here and there. There's a bit of, tarnish. There's a bit of a tarnish here and there as well. So that perfectly, this shot here, just as the close-up, I think starts showing you where these layers are taking us. It works really great. So there we go. So once again, we're going to be letting that dry, and I'll come back for the next stage. So this stuff, Rikland Fleshsade, is a gloss, but they've stopped making it, and this is all we have left. But what they have done is they've brought it out, but it isn't a gloss version. So what I'm going to do is I'll use the non-gloss with a gloss varnish and mix it together so that I have replacement. Hooray! It's as close as possible to the actual gloss that was available pre-mixed. And what this does is it gives us a really nice depth to the model. The gloss will give it, well, it's in the name, it's going to give it a gloss, but it's also going to give an extra tone to the piece. And I know it looks as if I'm taking away, in part it kind of looks like I'm taking away what I've done, but no, that's not what it's gonna do, because we're gonna coat all of this gloss over both the bust and the base, and then we're gonna come back in and dry brush the base paint and the highlighted paint. We're going to be going all over that again, but in a dry brush, just to bring in more of that depth. And I promise it's going to look, it does, honestly, it's worth it. It is a process, but it's definitely worth it. So that is dry. It's had the gloss on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the first base colour, the Warplock bronze. So, but this time, because obviously last time I used this Warplock, it was to absolutely cover the model. This time we're just going to be dry brushing. It's going to give it absolutely, I promise, is going to give a really deep, in-depth effect. I don't know how else to describe it, but that's what we're going to do. So although it seems like we're taking away all the stuff that we've done, honestly, it's because we're going to pick up bits that we didn't pick up the first time round as well. And there's obviously scuffs and marks on it that can be highlighted again. So it gives us a great amount of depth, and that's what we want. And that's what makes it look like it's a real statue and not something that was printed on a 3D printer like 3-4 months ago. That's what's great fun about doing this type of thing. So with sci-fi, what do you love watching. If you're not a sci-fi fan, what do you watch? You watch rubbish. No, I'm joking. But I love watching sci-fi. Always have done. From watching Red Dwarf. Oh, believe me, it was like, should I do Red Dwarf? Should I? No. From watching all stuff like Red Dwarf, Doctor Who. I gotta be honest, Doctor Who has my heart, but I want to do a make for Doctor Who in November. Because November is like the anniversary of the release of Doctor Who for the first time. So I'll be doing a bit with that. So I have moved back to the Bronze Scorpion to give us that brighter highlight and bring more of that detail forward. And once again, as you can see, using my raggedy old cloth there and using my hand as well. It's just taking, and I know, I've sped it up, but it really is just picking out those higher parts. See there, I'm trying to concentrate on the edges of the collar, on his shoulders, and the ripples of the shirt. So that's looking really good, to me anyway. It's always worth as well. Always remember that if you think that you've gone a little bit too bright, you've still got your other colours there. And what I did a moment ago, I noticed that I'd gone too light on part of the hand, and because some of the Warplock was still on my tile, I was able to just get a little bit of that onto my brush. Didn't need to clean it off, and it just rubbed in over the hand, and it knocked it back just that little bit that it needed. So onto the base again, and see there, I'm showing you more of the close-up of the base because of the insignia there and the wording, it kind of shows up a little bit more to actually show you. And of course, going on to those edges again, just to bring out the more of the highlight on those points. And I will be gluing the buff to the base, and I'm just going to be using that Loctite super glue that I really enjoy using. It only takes a few moments to dry as well. So I've glued it in place, and I'm really happy with this, but we can get another highlight, and we're going to do that by using this silver metallic. It's called aluminium, and it is a great one to have, and you don't need a lot of it. And of course, I've made sure to shake it up, and I've just gone down a size with the Arrtx Opus brush, so just a smaller point there, just so that I'm not going too crazy. And with this, you need to absolutely make sure you have the tiniest amount on your brush. And this, I only want to be getting the very tips and edges, just like this, just to come around a little bit. And this is going to highlight a bit, to give it that extra bit of a pop. And I think it looks really great. This is the first time I've actually painted something like this, and I know I've done quite a few first with you guys, but I'm really chuffed with this. I've done a lot of firsts, and this isn't something that I've done before, practiced, and then I'm literally learning right now during this session. I've never attempted anything like this. This is simply from watching other YouTubers and talking as well to Mr. Goblin, because he is more of the miniature painter. I'm still, strictly speaking, pretty new to painting things that aren't on a canvas or on, like, I like painting on wood slices, so I am reasonably still pretty new to painting actual models, and it is so much fun. It really is. If you haven't given it a try, please do. It really is enjoyable. And, you know, you don't have to be perfect at it. You know, this isn't perfect by any means. But I enjoyed it. You know, it's fun. It just is fun. And you get such a... It's... Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I really don't. But you can sit back and go, I did that. That's me. I managed that. You know, so yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed this project, and I think I'd really like to do a few other things like it as well. So I'm going to be having a good look, and I think I would like to have a go at this with perhaps some of the molds that I have, cast in with some of the eco resins. I think it'd be really fun just to have a try to see if I can also do this kind of technique with maybe perhaps the lion or something like that. But I think just giving his face a little buff there as well, I think I'm kind of done. And this is where I say, you know when to say no more. Because it is very addictive, you know, when you're painting. And there we go. I'm too old for this beep. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get in trouble. But look at that. Isn't that really cool? And those highlights, just bringing that silver, that aluminium, just on the corners, not going crazy. But it gives that, just that little something, that little something. Yeah, I think so. It just, it's not just, oh, and see, they're a little bit too much, but I'm not going to panic because I know that I can just knock it back. With the acrylic paints, you can always get another brush with some water on it, and you can just basically clean it up, just like this. And if you're not quick enough, you can always go back to your paint and, you know, just reapply it there. So thoroughly enjoyed this one. I really hope that you've enjoyed it as well. And I'm kind of hoping that you can, I'm bringing something a little bit different, a little bit new, and maybe a little bit of inspiration perhaps, that you could possibly try something like this. But I'm definitely going to revisit this kind of technique with an aquacast make. I was thinking of maybe one of the lions or something like that. I'm really pleased with him. Isn't he fab? And it may not be everyone's cup of tea, I'm aware of that, especially with that little bit of a cheeky, I'm too old for this at the bottom. But yeah, it's cool that all it took was these three and one little bit of that one, you know, basically 4 paints. And that's all it took. And I think it looks really cool. I really do hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to paint out the bottom of it just with black. Please check out the list down below. Love you and stay weird.
She molds her dreams with resin and clay. Whimsical wonders brighten the day. Stay wonderfully weird, let your colors unfold. Frogs and dragons, stories untold. Crocodiles dance in a resin sea. Stay weird, stay wild, stay beautifully free. She paints the night with the dragon's flame. In her hands the world's never the same.